So should we just go right in?
Yes, I think we should go right into this. One of the things that I think that really interests me, I mean, obviously, we're all about apps. We're all about, the technology that we can use. But I think that, really what's important is, the market has changed. We've gone from being a down market into a very quick, low inventory, hot market. And we're getting back to work in terms of really trying to get sellers back into the market to sell their homes. So listing presentations are very, very important. So let's talk about some ways, some things that are not working with old PowerPoints and keynotes, which are so, just not user-friendly. And then let's discuss these ways that we can turn Haiku Deck into something that is more user-friendly and beautiful at the same time.
That sounds great. So Laura, thank you so much for the introduction. And just super, super quickly, Haiku Deck is right now an iPad app that launched last summer. And our whole mission is to make presentations simple, beautiful, and fun. But the things we're going to share with you today, you can apply no matter what presentation tool you're using. So I'm going to be showing you a Haiku Deck, and I'm going to be giving you a little bit of a demonstration. But we have studied a lot of what presentation experts recommend to build our product, and these are all things that I think can help you feel more inspired and more confident about your own presentations. So, and also we just want to make sure to invite you to enjoy the conversation. We have people on both of our teams who are tweeting.
Yes, we do.
And part of that, and we really love to hear your questions and your responses and your comments. That's really central to the whole way we're building our community. So please.
Right. So if you're on Twitter, our hashtag is Haiku for RE. We're going to be doing some tweets and getting some things out there. So for those of you that may have to leave early, by any means, we're going to keep pushing out some of our links and important tweetables as we go through, and I'm sure there will be a lot.
Yeah, I hope so. All right. So Laura sort of touched on this, and I wanted to sort of talk about the problem. And I think, we have sort of, we imagine what a presentation is supposed to look like, and we kind of maybe have this format that feels tried and true, and it's the way we've done it for 10 years or more, or maybe even 20 years. And I want to sort of expand our thinking about that a little bit, because there's sort of this formula that people go into, like, all right, I'm going to make my slides, I'm going to put a header, I'm going to put a bunch of bullets, and after a while, I think this really tunes people out. And
right.
I sort of think of it as like showing up to a client meeting with your ratty old tennis shoes on. If you've been kind of using the same template or the same format for a really long time, and because it's a lot of work, right, to build this, and even though it's really important, it's kind of daunting to sort of think about changing it or doing it in a different way. But
right. And we don't really have the time necessarily to sit and go through like tons of images and bullet points and pull charts in. So
yeah, so it's easy to kind of keep sort of dragging out the same old thing, and over time, it just starts to feel a little bit flat and not very inspired. And this is really one of the main things that inspired us with Haiku Deck, is that this is such a problem. Like, no one loves using PowerPoint or the tools that we are sort of forced to use, and no one really enjoys this process. But we kind of feel like it shouldn't be that way. It should be a lot easier, and so that's kind of where we're coming from. And so today, I just want to sort of give you all the feeling that you've got some killer new shoes that make you feel like you're going to dominate the world, that just feel like you, and that really stand out, and that signal, like, I am a creative thinker, and I've got this, and we're going to give you some inspiration to make you feel that way.
Right, and we're also going to be doing some before and afters. So hang on to, because that'll be really interesting, because we have some before and after slides that we're actually going to be working on towards the end. So this will be fun.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to share some ideas for you, and we promised 5 strategies to really help you sort of rethink your listing presentation. And the first one is to be yourself. Now, I just love this lady eating ice cream. She's just so obviously her own person. And to me, this is really about personality. And I have really, it's been really fascinating for me to understand the real estate community a little bit more deeply as I've been working with Haiku Deck. It's one of our communities that's really passionate about the product. I also have a perspective on this because I just moved recently. I just bought a house and I went through the process of, you know, figuring out who we're going to work with. Now, I was lucky because one of my good friends happens to be an agent, and I trust her, and I just called her up, and she worked with us. But I was also really thinking about how I would have felt if I couldn't just call her. And you know, I've also seen lots and lots of different listing presentations through my work, and I have to tell you that a lot of them end up sort of sounding and feeling the same. But you know that your business is built on real relationships. And I think it's really important to let your personality shine through a little bit and to help this really important piece of content that you're sharing with your potential clients really express who you are and what makes you different. So, you know, that lady just really inspires me to think about that. And this is like the pinstripe suit, and I want to talk about the template because I have noticed in lots of listing presentations that I've seen, and actually not just within real estate, this is true across all segments, that we're like, oh, well, we have to use our corporate template. And I wanted to talk about that because, you know, here's what happens when you have a corporate template. You have your logo on every single page. It kind of often it ends up feeling kind of cluttered because you're using this space to, you know, basically remind people of the same things over and over again. And to me, it's kind of a signal to tune out. I don't know about, I mean, if you sort of put yourself on the other side of the table, it's like, oh, you know, here we go, the corporate template.
Well, I mean, on average, sellers will, will interview 3 agents. So if they're getting listing presentations from up to 3 agents or more, they're seeing these, probably 3 different versions. So the corporate logos can probably get in the way a little bit of what's important in the information in the actual one-on-one conversation. So I could see that.
Yeah, so of course you have to sort of find the right balance for sure. But I think, and there may be a requirement or an expectation to include that in some way. But what I'm encouraging you to do is just look for ways to sort of let your authentic self be expressed a little bit more. Now, you're not going to show up in surf shorts and a cape, but there are always ways that you can inject your own personality and your own flair and to really show yourself in an authentic way. And I think this is so important because when you are really being yourself, it makes it so much easier for people to relate to you and connect with you, which is the way that you build your business. And so I think sometimes what I see are like amazing people with listing presentations that don't really do them justice, right?
Or don't really have a lot of personalization.
Yeah. And again, you might have been doing it a certain way, or you've looked at how everybody else's is, and then you think, well, this is how it has to look. And I'm really just encouraging you to sort of think outside of that construct that we've set for ourselves a little bit, and just how can it really express your personality? Because then it's going to be a lot more fun to deliver. All right, and then the next thing I really want to talk to is simplifying your message, and this is again very central to how we have built Haiku Deck, and you can see that on my slides I'm not including a lot of text. And I think we've all, again, been there. You know that feeling when you are sitting in an audience and someone starts reading you their slides word for word. It's terrible, right?
Right.
Nobody wants to do that. You just sort of tune out. And I think as a culture, we've sort of developed some bad habits of feeling like we have to pack our slides full of every single thing we're going to say to make sure we don't miss anything. But again, that's sort of a recipe that just makes people sort of tune out.
Right.
You know, you just sort of start zoning. And so a couple of really concrete things that you can apply are just, one, to just really limit the amount of text. And if any of you are using Twitter, you've already developed this skill, right, to make your point fit into that constraint. And then the other thing is to limit your focus to one idea per slide, because that's really all people can absorb. And it is a little bit different than the way most people build their slides. They think they have to pack so much into one particular frame, but
so do you think,
really just sort of, yeah.
Well, Catherine, I was going to say, so with this, when you say simplify your message, do you mean technically just use less words on a slide? And does that mean more memorization? Or does that mean, you know, just kind of, you know, just have a representation in that simple message of how you're going to springboard into the next piece of information that you're presenting? So this actually gives you the opportunity to show what you actually know, what your expertise is, while the slide is actually complementing what it is that you're saying. So that's kind of what I think you're saying, right?
Yes, that's exactly it. So I think it's good practice to sort of work on simplifying your message as a whole, because I think sometimes we feel like we have to demonstrate our expertise by including too much. And it can be a little bit overwhelming if you're on the other side of the table. But also, you're right that you're absolutely right, Laura, that it takes a little bit of practice. We're sort of used to using the words we put on our slides as a reminder for what we're going to say. So it does take a little practice to really know that material and be clear about what you want to say, but not feel like you have to read it off a slide word for word. So it's a skill to develop, but it's actually, again, you're going to connect with your audience a lot more authentically that way.
Right. So when we're talking about, so we had a question that kind of came through, and I just kind of want to make sure that when we simplify, even if we're talking about putting one idea on a slide, so what would be an example on a listing presentation of maybe one idea that we might use?
That's great. We're definitely going to do some of that in our before and after. But let's say you had a slide that you wanted to talk about all of the different factors that affect the value of your home. And there may be 7 or 8 of them. And what a lot of people do is just put them all together on one. So what you have to do is decide, are they important enough that you really need to cover each one? And if they are, I would recommend actually making 8 different slides that you go through very quickly. So it's all about the pacing. So you want to. So
there's one point. Attention. Okay, so instead of having 8 of them on one slide, because that's the topic, you kind of break them up into simple points per slide, move through them a little bit quicker, but use use a little bit more of your own inflection and personality and presentation skills to get that point across. Got it.
And if
okay, perfect.
And if really all 8 aren't that important to spend
just
one
not
slide
use
on
them
them,
at all.
Yeah, you can trim them down, or you could maybe try to summarize into one thing that's really important to communicate. So it's always, you're always kind of, I think if you're always having that mentality of, can I simplify this a little bit more? Then just making that movement. A day, and think about everything that's valued, Twitter, Facebook, and when you're driving around. And, you know, we all experience this. And as a side note, I just really, really want to say thank you to everybody who's here today, because I understand how valuable that time is. And then the other trend that I've really been keeping an eye on is, and I'm sure that many of you have heard about as well, is how much of the information we consume is via mobile devices. Um, and this is really true in our own community. I see it definitely in our stats of how people are reading our email or coming to our website. And so, you know, if you sort of think about if you're reading one slide or one, like reading it on an iPhone, because that's what a lot of people are doing, it really encourages you to get to the point and keep it simple. But the third point that I actually really feel like is super important is, again, thinking about your audience. So if I'm looking to hire a real estate professional, I really am going to value somebody who respects my time and is able to sort of filter what I need to understand really deeply and what I don't. And so, and I've certainly had this experience with different, you know, I sort of think through, you know, different like accountants I've worked with or doctors, and I really, really appreciate the ones who know their stuff but don't necessarily need to take me through every single detail. They're able to really kind of get me quickly to what I need to know and answer my questions if I want to know more, but not kind of bog me down with stuff that may or may not be important to the decision or the topic at hand. So I just really think that this holds true, having just been through this process and, you know, knowing all the details of the complicated paperwork. And I just love when my agent could say, you know what, here's the deal with this, you know, I'll explain it more if you want to, but here's what it means, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to read every single word. I just really appreciated that because I'm busy, and I trusted her to do that. So I think that ability, that communication style really helps. Laura, did you have anything to add about that?
Well, I just think that, I mean, I definitely think that respecting people's time and moving it, you know, quickly through the process, answering their questions, and I think that also helps to connect them, providing them the time to ask questions rather than having to speed through the actual presentation itself is just a basic presentation quality that we all sort of have to learn to perfect. So I think sometimes, even as a presenter, having things that are not as many things in front of you to worry about helps you really connect to that person too. So all right, so let's talk about this elevator speech. We want to get away from that, and we need to...
Well, really kind of the point is that we use this term a lot, and I think your listing presentation is kind of an opportunity to demonstrate it. Like, how can you sort of condense what makes you you? The simpler you're going to make it for me, the better.
Right.
Still
so
injecting a personality, but don't give me the encyclopedia. Give me the short version. And what I love about what you just said, Laura, is leaving time to ask questions. And I think sometimes what people tend to do is feel like they need to cover every possible question up front to demonstrate their command of the material. But I think you're just going to build a much more powerful relationship with someone if you show that you have that expertise, but then you allow time for them to ask questions about what is important to them, because it might not be what you anticipate.
Right, exactly. So what's the next one?
Yeah, so let's go. So I think we kind of covered that idea. I'm going to keep going. Let's talk about making it visual. So you'll notice that the slides I'm showing to you are just loaded with images, and this is another of those kind of key best practices that we've built the app around to help you make images. Every single person listening in on this call knows how much images matter. So, you know, again, I'm thinking through my recent experience, and if I was looking around on Zillow, if the photos were bad, or even worse, if there was no photo, I just skip right over it.
Right. So the beauty of Haiku Deck is that you actually have a gallery of photos to choose from that actually come with the actual app, so that when you're picking, you know, photos to go, the imagery to go with an actual slide, what we can then do is you can add either your own or you can add from the gallery. So you don't have to go to a separate place like Google Images or Shutterstock or iPhoto or stockphotos.com to go get images. They're actually already built into the gallery, which is great. And they're categorized to help you choose which ones to use.
And I'll show you that in action in a little bit. But it is pretty killer. It's a built-in image search to 35 million Creative Commons licensed photos that have all been posted, and the photographers have said are okay to use. They're free, they're the right size. It's really, really fun. So it's worth checking it out just for that. So Laura shared this stat with me, and it blew my mind that we process images 60,000 times faster than words.
Yes, very true.
In the web version we'll publish of the slides, it has a link to the article if you want to know more about that. But we sort of experience this, and we talk about the power of images, but especially when we're talking about information overload and just communication, you know, think about the power of just looking at one powerful image versus reading a whole paragraph, right? You're just going to grab people's attention so much more effectively.
Right.
And they really affect us cognitively as well. So they help us understand things better. They help with retention. We can remember information better when we see images connected with the words, and especially emotionally. I mean, they really engage our feelings and heighten our creative thinking. And of course, real estate is incredibly emotional, right? These are really big life decisions, some of the biggest ones that we face. Laura, I know you had some thoughts about this.
Yes, absolutely, because, you know, I think that, you know, I've been through the process as well, and I think that when I'm, you know, sometimes we need our agents to be the one that sort of holds our hand through these big emotional decisions. And I think that when we can sort of, you know, make that point up front that the expertise and the knowledge that my agent has for me when I'm going through this process or putting my home on the market is really one of the first things that helps me to trust and connect and open up in a way that I think that the relationship needs to work. So yes, I absolutely believe that connecting emotionally is awesome. So what is the next one?
So I made this kind of as a little bit of a joke.
Oh yes, bullet points.
So, you know, again, we sort of tried out this formula, and a lot of people just think when you hear a presentation, it's what you picture, right?
Right.
A header and a bunch of bullets, maybe some clip art, and you know,
I don't like clip art.
I'm not a fan either. So, you know, I made this little list in Haiku Deck, and I've made it as beautiful as I can, but the point is, yes, they are useful sometimes, but they really, I think, again, that they trigger that tune out of like, oh boy, here we go, here are the bullets, especially if someone's going to read them to you, you know, even if you're fancy, even if they catch on fire and flip around. I really try to save them for when, I try to sort of use them very sparingly, put it that way, rather than just every single slide, which is how a lot of people build their slides, you know, bullets and then, you know, three bullets under each one, and you know, it's really not, I think using a really powerful image to communicate your point is just going to stand out a lot more.
Yeah, and Patty, who's on chat, she says she has an old saying that says, in her design business, that say bullets kill.
Yes,
so stay away from the bullets.
Bullet control now.
Right, so this next one that you have on here, everyone loves a good story, which I think is so important and so key. But give me a really good example of what you mean by adding story to your presentation. Does that mean as I'm presenting I tell a story, or I let the slide do the talking?
Well, I think there are lots of
different something
ways.
Different. Yeah, there's something different for a lot of us to think about in terms of a listing presentation.
Absolutely. So I actually feel like there are lots of different ways you can inject elements of story. And, you know, one way to think about your listing presentation as a whole, it's really the story of why someone should hire you. And so, you know, you may or may not put it together in that way, but just remember that at its fundamental essence, that's the story that you're trying to tell. And one thing you might include, whether it's in your actual slides or just in the way that you talk about it, is why, what has brought you to this career and this profession, and what do you love about it? And I think that why is a really, really powerful thing. And I'll just really quickly share why I got involved with Haiku Deck. So I knew the founder. We worked at Cranium, the game company, together for lots of years. And after Cranium it got acquired and we went our separate ways, and I had a consulting business. And Adam, he had actually been through a couple of other different business concepts, and I always loved working with him personally. And the business concepts were, we won't go into details, but they weren't things that really really got me excited, but I helped him launch them because of our relationship. And then we were out at his birthday party at a karaoke bar, and he showed me Haiku Deck on his iPhone. And he said, hey, look what I'm working on right now. And it was like time stopped, because I have always loved communication and storytelling, and I've always tried really hard to make my slides look nice, and I really appreciate good design. But it just felt like this magic moment and experience. And I ended up walking away from my consulting business to join this team because I believe so strongly in the potential of this product to change the way we communicate. And so it really was born of a lot of personal passion and this relationship for me.
Right. So well, I was just going to say, so when you're building the listing presentation, then what you want to do is, have a moment. It may not be a long moment. It may just be one slide that triggers you into the conversation with your seller, where you can actually say, this is why I'm in the business. This is why I enjoy working with people like you, and really help them along. So I totally believe that having a good story helps them to trust you. And again, goes to that emotional factor of helping them to understand that you're on their side and the reason why you're on their side. So that's a really great point. All right, so let's get to the next
some other
one.
Examples.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So little what I call nuggets of story. And so another thing I like to try to do, and that Haiku Deck helps me do, is sort of communicate concepts in a visual, memorable way. And you have to do this all the time. You have to try to make me understand things like market forces and escrow and things that aren't really natural to me. So
but these are things that are
metaphors.
Well, these are where your expertise actually comes out as an agent. I mean, these can be, small spin-offs of not only your why, but obviously this is where you shine. These are the things that may not be part of your story, but these are the reasons why you're here, because you have the expertise, you have the capabilities and the skills to actually accomplish what they need to have accomplished. So the results are really where the nuggets of the story become important to the seller in your listing presentation.
Absolutely true. Great point. And if you're wondering what the oysters are about, one concept I've been trying to communicate a lot is to, again, limit the words on your slide like we've talked about. And a lot of experts recommend no more than 6 words. So I've been sort of looking for ways to illustrate that. And when I saw a picture of oysters, it totally clicked for me. I was like, oh, that's perfect, because you want, oysters are these precious and delicious and well-chosen things that you really don't want more than half a dozen, or you're probably going to get a stomach ache. So I think of words on the slide like oysters. So that image helps me remember that and communicate that in a different way than just, here's the rule.
Great.
So you can sort of think about ways to help your client understand these things you have deep expertise about and remember it and kind of get it. So it's kind of putting yourself in their shoes and what makes sense.
So so here's our next thing. Yeah, because we have listing presentations involve numbers. They involve market statistics. They involve a lot of different numbers and percentages. And agents need to break these things down so that sellers understand it in a way that's not industry speak, but in a way that they understand. So just, explain to me how Haiku Deck takes some of these charts and stats and things that we normally have to build in PowerPoint and actually create something a little bit more user-friendly to the eye.
Yeah. Definitely. So this is a playful example. This is from a deck that I use to introduce myself, and I talk about my career background, but I also share some things I love and don't love. Which again helps spark conversation, and people say, oh, I love the beach too, or I do Bikram yoga. But the way we build charts and graphs, again, it's informed by all the things we've talked about, simplifying and just making it a little bit more playful and friendly. And we'll actually build one, and you can see you just use your finger to swipe and adjust the size of the bars. So rather than trying to link up some spreadsheet, it's super fun to do, and it's a really nice way of presenting data and information, which is, I know, a really important skill. So let's
move forward and get to that, because I think a lot of people are really interested in that.
Great. Okay. Just, all right, really quickly, another great kind of story to include are real stories and people that you've worked with. Testimonials are so important, and we really trust those, so think about including some of those. And then I mentioned simple, beautiful, and fun. It's not a word that we associate with building presentations, but we don't see any reason why it can't be fun. And so, and I think, you know, when you're presenting yourself, obviously you're going to be professional and inspire trust, but you can say what you have fun, and that's the kind of person that people want to work with.
I wonder if anyone in our audience actually, how they might include fun into their listing presentations. If anyone wants to put that in the chat of how you're able to add that to your fun, it might be sort of our little idea cue that we can kind of throw out into the Twitter stream. So if you guys have if you actually add fun into your listing presentation, we'd love to hear some of your ideas. Feel free to shoot them into the chat or into the Twitter stream. It would be great to know. So find your creative flow. You know, it's really hard to get creative with PowerPoint and Keynote. I know this for a fact because it seems like I'm always just, you know, I click on a new slide and then all of these new titles come up and I have to sort of work my way through to get the information in that I really want to work. So talk to me really quickly about this, because then I want to move right into the demonstration of how to actually rebuild this.
Perfect. So we have really built the app to specifically encourage this, and the image search that I'll show you, I think, is a really key element of this that gives you ideas. And my observation is that a lot of times when we create presentations, we spend time on the wrong things, like kind of the fiddling with the spacing and the fonts, and I've done this with the transitions and the animations. And if we just give ourselves a little bit more time for that creative nugget to build around that just feels really you, things can really flow in a much better way, even if you are using some of those more challenging tools that, you know.
Well, and I love that, like Crystal, who's also on the webinar, she said one of her taglines is serious fun, and she explains during the process of her listing presentation how she helps make the process of being a home seller more fun, and how she helps the seller, how she helps put them at ease within that. So that's like another great idea of just another way that you can like create a slide and then bounce an idea off of, you know, I just want to put you at ease. I want you to know that I'm here for you. You know, so that's another great idea.
I love that.
Yeah, Reba says she tells funny stories too about maybe, you know, really bad listing photos. Like she might say, this is what I won't do, but this is what I will do. And I know we're going to get into that in our demo because we're going to do a makeover really quickly. So those are some great ideas. You guys love them.
Those are fantastic ideas. And I'm thinking back to, you know, the process I just went through, and we did, it's intense, but we did laugh a lot about some of those different things, and that just makes it human, right?
Right. How about cat photos?
Bearable.
Should cat photos be used in a listing? I don't know. We see those on Facebook so much.
You have to think about what's right for your personality. Go with what feels like you and is authentically you. Okay, so we're going to...
go ahead.
We're going to just go right in. Unless anything you want to... Whoops, I went too far. We're going to go back and edit. I'm working right on my iPad today. Okay, so here's how we set this up. I asked Laura to send me a couple of really bad sample slides. So Laura, can you talk a little bit about how you chose those? Or?
Yes, because this was actually pulled from an older client that I had from a while ago, but this was before listing presentations actually started going on PowerPoints and keynotes. This was when we were doing pre-listing packets. And then when we started transferring a lot of the pre-listing packages that were just, you know, sort of stacks of paper that we would leave on the coffee table of the seller and let them read through it, you know, this was something that I just sort of copied and put into a slide, because I think there are people who have just sort of transformed old pre-listing packages and maybe put them into the slides. So what I did was I took some of the information, and I actually went into PowerPoint and tried to pick a theme that I thought would actually, you know, sort of make it look pretty, but, and I actually would put one page each on each slide, and, you know, this is kind of what came out. So tell me how to improve this, because I think that sometimes it's not so much about, you know, the information that we're putting on there. We don't want to not put enough information into our listing presentations. We don't want them to miss out any of the important things. And there are some things in listing presentations that you absolutely do need to go through. I mean, it's just part of, sellers need to understand some very definite points. So tell me how we can prettify or make these definitely more inspirational for the seller.
So I had the same reaction. There's actually a lot of really good content here and really important detail. I feel like what's happening here is that we're kind of confusing the overall message with that level of detail. So one way I might sort of go about this is if we wanted, so I'm just creating a little slide. If we wanted to really talk about market value.
So explain to me, before you jump right into this, kind of explain what this dashboard is here, because this is how you're building the slide. So so go ahead and just tell me.
Down at the bottom are little thumbnails of all the slides that I just showed to you. And then at the right, I just tapped a plus to create a new slide. And over on the left, you can see different, I'm now highlighting the text, which is where I type in what I'm going to, the words on my slide. And you will notice that Haiku Deck does really, it kind of encourages you to limit your text. So you can't just fill this up with text. What I did with this one before, I went to the image tab, and I'm going to show you the image search. What I did was actually import an image. And you can use your own images, or you can do our image search, which we're going to do in a second. And I had actually already linked this up to a Flickr account. I did this while you were talking, Laura, and I had pulled in these screenshots that Laura had sent me. So
can you bring in video to Haiku Deck?
Right now you can't. We don't embed video all the way. It's something that people ask for a lot and that we're looking into.
Okay.
So I definitely, there are a couple of workarounds that I recommend for that. We have some information on our blog, which Lisa can send out a link to that. But again, we don't want to, we're trying to keep things simple, and we don't want to release a big new feature like that until we can really nail that experience.
Got it.
So, and then I'm just going to go through these other tabs just so you kind of get a sense that these are like sort of different layouts you can choose.
Kind of like PowerPoint.
Yeah, but they're all just sort of one tap. Like I don't have to, I just say, oh, let's try a top and a bottom, or on the left or on the right. It's very fast, very easy, and flexible, And then this last pane is for adding notes. And this is a great way to add a little more detail, like we were just talking about, without feeling like you have to put every single thing on your slide. So I could add some of the detail that we just saw on that very dense slide. I create a Haiku Deck and actually download a PDF that has the slide plus all those notes all together. It will be a beautiful handout or leave behind.
Oh, okay. That's nice.
Yeah, that's really, really handy. So let's just sort of walk through, and I'll show you some of those things in a little bit more detail. So we've got our before slides, and one thing that I just want to show you an example of, like, if you're trying to help someone understand the market value, just give them something they can really relate to. So I'm here from Seattle. I'm going to show you. I'm going to type in Pike Place Market, which is a famous farmers market and fish market that's right downtown, and anybody who's ever been to Seattle will know of it. So see all these images that I just went through? These are all, like I said, these are Creative Commons licensed photos. I can just sort of go through and see which one I like. And we do all of the sizing, and we pull in the image attribution, like the license information, automatically, so you don't have to spend time on that. So I just choose one that I like. And the reason I chose this image is I think people kind of it seems like I've noticed, having talked with a lot of real estate professionals and also been through the price that it's like the one thing I hear over and over again is that it's the buyers who really determine your market value, and people think they understand the value of their house, right?
Right.
And
Well, and
it's sort of
sellers,
like, yeah.
well,
Oh,
it's a
yeah.
very personal issue for sellers, and I think that
Yes.
this is one of
Yes.
the really strong points to get across. It's
Mm-hmm.
always, to make sure that sellers really understand what dictates the market value of the home, and this is really where agents really can fly in with their expertise. But what you're
Mm-hmm.
grabbing them with here, what you're saying is that the agent should be the one really presenting that information, not necessarily the slide. So the slide is there to visually, sort of set the tone, while the
Yes.
agent actually nails it with the information and expertise. So that's kind of what we're
Absolutely.
replacing here
Exactly.
with
So
that.
it's like kind
Okay,
of
got it.
reminding people, when you go shopping for salmon, and anyone who lives in Seattle would know this, it's not always the same price. It really depends. It depends on, how big the catch is or what time of year it is. And so it's not like buying, a roll of paper towels that you're going to always expect to be the same price. It's a pretty dynamic thing, and it's complex. And every time I walk through that market, it might be different. And some
Right.
things might be really expensive one day because of these other forces. So just like kind of help me get in the right mindset that we're talking about the same thing, just expanded on a much bigger and more complex scale. And then when I read through the slide that you sent, Laura, give me a
Mm-hmm.
little bit. This point about buyers really determining the value. Hold on, I'm just gonna. I think we got a little bit. Haiku Deck got a little stage fright there. I
So,
have a feeling what yeah.
right. So
Go ahead.
if this were to happen while you're doing a listing presentation, then you need to kind of
Which could
come in
happen.
with that information. Yeah, it can definitely happen. One of the things I wanted to
Yep.
ask you about Haiku Deck, because you're talking about pulling up something that was very specific to Seattle. If I was building a listing presentation, do you have galleries that actually have local community photography? I mean, like what do your galleries provide in terms of, if I want to put in San Francisco, I mean, is that just a big metropolitan? Can I drill down even more? Because I would
You
see
would be
whereas
amazed.
okay, good. And I can
Yeah,
provide my own as well. Now,
absolutely.
can we
Mhm.
share presentations to YouTube, or is it just, back into PowerPoint and then also into the PDF version?
Oh, you can, I have seen people put them up on YouTube. I think they often will run it through, they probably are, so let me just back up a little bit. Like every Haiku Deck that I create, when I publish it or share it generates a URL, not a huge file or giant attachment. And it's just a nice web link that I can email to my client. I could share across my social networks, or I
Okay,
could
so
even embed
that's
them in my blog. Mm-hmm.
okay, that's huge for me because I remember the
Mm-hmm.
days where trying to email a PowerPoint
Yes.
presentation to someone is like almost impossible.
Yep.
File size,
Yep.
compatibility problems with
Yes.
Microsoft, that was always an issue. So
Yep.
now I want to make it clear that if you make a presentation in Haiku Deck, you can actually import that into PowerPoint if you need to. So it's still
You
flexible with
can.
PowerPoint. How about
Yep.
Keynote? Because it's an iPad app.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, so it can go into
Yep.
Keynote
You can go
or
right to Keynote.
PowerPoint.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fabulous. Go ahead.
Yep.
Sorry, I just wanted to make
So
that clear.
that's okay. That's okay. No, I'm glad you asked about that. In fact, there's a really great case study on our blog about a broker in Colorado who he really credits Haiku Deck to landing him a $1.4 million listing. And the kicker was the clients asked, they loved the presentation because he had simplified his message. It was really easy to understand, and they just so appreciated that. And then the cherry on top was they said, can you share these slides? And he said, sure, I'll email them right here from my iPad. And they just were blown away. And that's why they
Right.
hired him. So I think
Well,
there
and you
is
had
really
mentioned, yeah, well,
power
and you had
there.
also mentioned earlier about maybe connecting it to your Apple TV. So if you have someone actually come into your office and use something like Apple TV, you can display it on a larger screen. We had a question that I just kind of wanted to ask you because it goes along with this, because there's Keynote Remote as an app with the iPhone. If you were displaying this, can you actually do those so they can play it on their iPhone and actually let the client hold the iPad while you're going through the presentation together? That is possible, right?
Yes, that is possible.
Okay, perfect.
And that's, again, a really powerful, great relationship building thing. Or, just give the client the iPad and let them swipe through and see what's interesting. That's a really, really nice way to do it.
Great. Thanks for that question, Erica, by the way. Go ahead.
Definitely. That's great. So one thing I was going to show you is, sorry we had a little blip there, but I'm going to just pull down these themes. And again, we try to make this so easy to apply. So I was using this origami theme for the presentation we've been looking at, but I can change the font and the look and sort of choose one that feels like what I want to go for, and it has actually image filters that are built into that. I could make it black and white if that's what I like. So you can sort of play around with it and choose one that really suits your mood. I'm going to just change to Zusu, which is a really nice, clean look. But again, we try to make that part very easy so that it feels polished, but you don't have to spend a lot of time if you want to look at a different font that you have to go through and like change your master template and every little header and footer and everything. Right. It's just too. Okay, so let's look at this market. Okay, one of the points in that slide we were looking at was this idea that the buyer's agent is going to do a market analysis. And I would love to see what one of those looks like rather than just hearing this term. So let's kind of make one. And we have this integrated way of making a chart. So I could choose a bar chart or a pie chart or sort of an infographic type chart. And I feel like this probably wants to be a bar chart. So let's just say let me just show what one looks like so that I can really picture and understand how the house I'm maybe selling is going to be evaluated. So we might look at recent sales prices in my neighborhood. I just moved, so let's say we'll do 67. Idea. Just choose my units and show that I might think I'm going to sell my house for, $900,000, but if we sort of look at recent sales and see that really none of them that are comparable to my house, are going to really be in that neighborhood, it sort of helps that conversation a little bit. And again, this is helping show the data in a way that is understandable and relatable, and that kind of removes those emotions a little bit. So rather than just telling your client, well, the buyer is going to be doing a market analysis, let's really look at what that looks like and help me get it and understand it. And even better, if it's a real market analysis for my neighborhood and the home that I would like to sell, it's going to help me get in that right frame of mind.
Great.
So
that's really interesting, the way that you can kind of plug in. Can you change the colors of those bars if you'd like to?
So again, like we try to simplify things. So if I change the theme, it does change the palette.
It changes the colors, okay.
But they go together, yeah. So you sort of just choose one that you like and go with it. And they've all been designed by designers, so they're really nice, lovely.
Right, and I wanted to clarify too, this came up in the question box about you don't need to be online to create a presentation. Is that correct? You can just be on your iPad and actually create this. And I want to be clear too that currently Haiku Deck is for iPad only. It's not available yet for the Android because we have a lot of those popping up. So they're still a new company. It came out last summer, so they're still in development. But yeah, so you don't have to be online to create the presentation.
Correct. You would to do the image search just because we're bringing those in. But if you are importing your own images or just sort of blocking it out, you can work offline. And actually, I really enjoy that spontaneity and that flow of carrying it around with me and sort of working on it a little bit when I feel like it. maybe if I'm curled up watching TV with my kids or on the bus, or it's a really different experience than, you know, sort of being chained to a desk to create a big PowerPoint.
Right, right.
And Laura, just one other note, because I know there are a lot of Android users. If you go to our website and you click in the top right corner, Get Haiku Deck, there's a big orange button. You can either download the iPad app or cast a vote for a different platform and put your email in, and you will be on our list, and you'll be the first to be notified when a new platform is available. And I would really encourage you to do that, because
yes, I think our
yeah.
Android users need some love from apps.
Yes,
that's for
yes.
sure.
So that really helps us know what the community needs. And we are also working on a web version of Haiku Deck, and signing up that way will put you on the list, so you can be among the first to use that too.
And that was another one of our questions, is can you use Haiku Deck on the PC? So not yet. It's definitely an app that you use on your iPad. So not available yet, but if you sign up, you know, through the email list, then you'll be the first when they come out with a web version. So that would probably be the best way to do that. Great. Okay, so what is our next? Are you going to redo that one last slide? Or did we go through
let's get another one. We had a couple more. Let's see. So I'm going to import again, and like I said, I already hooked this up to my Flickr, so it makes it really easy. So it's very similar to the example I mentioned. So one thing I didn't show is pinch. You can't see my fingers, but see how I'm size of the image?
Oh, yeah.
So that it fits, which is a really nice, sort of easy, time-saving tool. So here's a great example of, like, we have what factors, and I could sort of make a decision. Are those all important? We sort of joked about the bullets, but sometimes there's a time in for everything, I feel like. So we could just do all the details that just kind of go through, right? Location.
Yeah, your sound is fading out a little bit there, Catherine. So I think we're not hearing as much as what you're talking about. So I apologize to everyone on the call that the sound is dropping out just a little bit for me as well. Can you hear both of us? If anyone who's on the chat, can you hear both Catherine and I? Or is it just one or the other? Maybe someone could just kind of let us know. Okay, so we're not hearing Catherine, but we can hear me. Okay, sorry about that. Catherine, are you still there? Okay, so guys, let me do this then, because you can hear what I'm going to say. If you have any questions about Haiku Deck, we only have like a few more minutes left on the call. So if you have any major questions that I can relay to Catherine, maybe we can answer these for you. I appreciate you hanging in there. Go ahead and put them in the chat. I love the fact that you guys came in with some great ideas with some of the fun things that you're adding into your listing presentations. And I think it's really great to give that kind of feedback back to the developers, and certainly Catherine with Haiku Deck. It would be great if you guys want to go either into the Twitter stream or continue to go here in the chat, or even we might even put something up on Inman Next on our Facebook page, where we just sort of throw it out there, what you guys are putting into your listing presentations that have really, really worked for you. Are you doing them more on tablets? Are you doing them more into the PowerPoints? I would love to hear all of these things, and I think it would be really, really helpful. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. The cost of the tool for Haiku Deck, I'm going to go through a couple of the questions, is yes, Haiku Deck is free. There are some things that are upgrades that are available for some different images and some more themes. So the beginner version is free, but then there's some additional add-ons that you can add to it if you want to make it more robust that do cost a little bit more. I have, let's see, what else do we have in questions? Our Facebook page is Inman Next on Facebook. So facebook.com/Inman Next. Catherine, is that you?
Yes, somehow I got kicked off there for a minute. So
oh my goodness, sorry about that. I was just kind of
no.
going through, this. I'm going to just kind of wrap it up because it's kind of fading in and out, which I know is frustrating. So again, so you are working on having a web version possibly available soon. But so if you can go ahead and put in your email. If you don't have an iPad, go ahead and put into the email on haikudeck.com. That you'd like to get on the first list for getting in on the web version. That would be fantastic. And then what are your plans for Android? Do you have any specific plans right now?
We are thinking about it. We would love, I'd love to say, yes, we're working on it right now. I think we do get a lot of requests for it, so we are listening to that. We just have to, again, like I said, we have to make sure we're delivering an amazing experience before we undertake a new platform. So it's definitely not,
in the
it's definitely a
works.
possibility. It's,
Okay.
we're thinking about it. I wish we had a magic wand and
Right.
a team of awesome Android developers, but it's definitely on the list.
Well, I think it would be really fun for those of you that are on the call that are maybe already using Haiku Deck and have some great examples. It would be great to have some of those maybe added to the Inman Next Facebook page or email us so that we can kind of go through that. I might even actually take Haiku Deck. I actually have it on my iPad and create a listing presentation, since that's what I used to do back in the day, and create an actual example and kind of go through that. So I think that might be really fun. But listen, I wanted to thank everyone for being on the call today. We will have the recording available. It will be on inman.com/webinars. It's actually under our education tab, so we will make that available for you. And until then, I just wanted to thank everyone for being here. Enjoy your day and enjoy your upcoming weekend. And again, we will have our upcoming webinars listed on our website as well. Catherine, thank you so much for coming in with your great inspiration and your tips for using Haiku Deck, and we hope you can come back again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us. And I love the conversation, and I can't wait to see examples and hear your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care, everyone. Have a great day.